Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So I want to talk about the biggest risk I took on a property that I bought back in 2021. So the biggest risk I took in a property, and it was a swing and a miss, was a mobile home park that I bought in Selma, Alabama back in November of 2021. So this was about 6 months after I bought my 26 unit apartment complex, and I wanted to diversify into recession resistant assets. And at the time, I viewed recession resistant assets as C class multifamily, self storage, and mobile home park. So I just closed on a 26 unit C class value add multifamily deal. So logically, in my mind, I wanted to get a mobile home park. And actually, after I got my mobile home park, I was actually looking and sending letters for self storage and decided not to buy any self storage. But let's talk about this deal I bought, this mobile home park in Selma, Alabama. So I was going on LoopNet and I was looking in Alabama because I own a single family home in Alabama. And I came across this mobile home park. It was 50 acres, 200 lots. And what drew me was the purchase price was $1.1 million with 100K down. And you get a seller carry note of 1 million at 5% interest only. So it was a creative finance deal and it was managed by CCI, who they manage mobile home parks, and apparently they specialize in managing mobile home parks. Fast forward, they're not that great of managers. I end up losing money on the deal, but I called them to ask about the deal. I was like, okay, like how's this deal work? So when I talked to them, they kind of went over the value add strategy with me. So basically, it's 200 lots, and out of 200 lots, maybe about 30 units were occupied. Out of 30 that were occupied, maybe like six were owned by the tenant, so they'd pay something called lot rent, and then the other 24 were owned by the park, so they just pay you rent to live in that unit. And as part of the value add strategy, a lot of tenants weren't paying. Fast forward, that still became an issue for me, but they weren't paying, and they said that the last landlord or owner was too cheap to pay for evictions. And so basically, the new owner has to come in, evict these tenants. And I thought Alabama would be landlord friendly. It's not. It's actually more tenant friendly, um, especially during COVID, right? It was during COVID as well, so it was harder to evict people. And they basically went over the value add strategy of you want to evict those tenants, renovate those units, rent it out. There's a bunch of homes that were empty, but they're owned by the park and they just required some renovations. So they predicted that on average it'd probably take you about $2,000 to $5,000 to renovate these units, in which case you can rent these out for about $500 to $600 each. So I think there were about 20 or 30 park owned homes that we could renovate to rent out. And there's also a bunch of homes where they were just too beat up, so we'd have to like tear them down. So that would cost money as well, about $1,000 on average to tear down a mobile home and to throw it away. And whatever was remaining, the lots were like in good condition so that you could bring on new homes. And what's nice about mobile home parks at the time was you can bring in homes at low or little cost. Sometimes you just can put the cost of utility hookups, you got to skirt the home, and I think that was it. And make sure the utilities were prepared. So you can bring in a home for like low money down or low cost and basically rent those homes out. So you can get 100% leverage to buy a brand new mobile home, rent that out. And Section 8 is very popular in some Alabama. Or you can bring in a brand new home and basically pay nothing, and then you can have it on lot to basically sell to a tenant to buy, and they pay you lot rent. So there was two ways to go about it. And because I had about 170 vacant lots, roughly, I was open to either method. So in some Alabama, it's more of a renter's market. So I figured I was going to bring in brand new homes costing about 40K, and they'd rent out for about 700, $800 to Section 8 or to a normal tenant. And I can basically bring these homes in um, using 100% leverage. And maybe over time, people might, once you kind of fix it the community, it looks nice, people would be interested in buying it. And then at that point, you could sell those homes off and then collect lot rent, which makes it more passive because you're not worried about the water heater. You're not the tenants are stickier because they own the home and it's expensive to move the home out. So I just thought it was a great value add strategy, and I had a vision that I basically bought for $1.1 million, put $100,000 down. My monthly loan payment was $4,000 a month. I think currently it was grossing about $8K a month, but it was kind of break even in terms of cash flow. And I just figured, well, I could renovate 3 homes per month, um, and then rent those out. So for $500 each, so that'd be $1,500 a month extra in cash flow every single month. So had a plan to out the gate renovate 20 homes, 3 a month, which would take me about 7-8 months. And by then, if I have $1,500 a month in extra cash flow times 8 months, that would increase my gross income significantly, right? So, what's that? It's almost like $12,000 a month in additional gross rental income in just 8 months. And after I finished renovating those units, I would then bring in 3 brand new homes per month at low money down and be able to rent those out, right? So I want to get a wait list of people to rent out. So I reached out to Section 8. So like basically I had a 4-year value add plan where over about 4 years, so that's about 40 homes a year, I would renovate homes, tear down homes, and then bring in brand new homes to then, either rent out or sell. And there was definitely rental demand there because I visited, when I did my due diligence on site, I walked the property, I visited apartment complexes, and all the apartment complexes are 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. There are no 3 bedroom options. So I was going to bring on 3 bedroom, single wide mobile homes. So I thought this would be my cash cow. I thought this would be my retirement. I thought this would be my golden goose. Because if you can you imagine, had it worked, I'd have 200 lots all rented out for, let's just say, $500 on average. Let's just say the renting rate was 700. The lot rate would be, 300 roughly. So, roughly it'd be about $500 is the middle ground. So 500 times 200, that's, what is that? It's $100,000 a month in gross rental income, right? So I just thought, well, 50% go to expenses, that's 50K. I had 50K left over. And let's just say all my loans would be another like 20K. That's 30K a month in like net positive cash flow, which is like way above my goal. And I thought I had the team to do that, right? So, and had I filled up this 50 acres with 200 mobile homes, it'd be worth like $10 million plus, right? So I was really, really like excited for this property. Like this was my golden goose into retirement. And then I basically would do a cash out refinance. I would basically, pay off the last note. I could use that money to pay off a bunch of homes, and basically use that money to go buy more. And because they manage 70 mobile home parks, I was like, oh, I can scale up these people, right? So that was my rose color lens. This was my shiny object syndrome. And, fast forward, I talked about in other videos, I ended up losing $100,000 on this property. And what happened was the property management was terrible. The CCI property management is terrible. They don't know how to manage parks. They just pay bills. Um, they were apparently stealing money off the renovation. So they would charge me $1,000 for renovation, but maybe it might cost them 500, and they would just take $500 from me. The property managers were probably stealing from me as well. And basically, they couldn't evict tenants. They couldn't collect the rents. So it was just bad. I couldn't fire them and find a replacement because it's hard in mobile home parks. Like you can't just fire your third party property manager and find a replacement because there's not that many, right? So it was bad property management. The area is too much high crime. There's so much crime that happened on the property. There was like a stabbing on the property. Cops were always there. To be fair, I talked to the cops during due diligence, and they told me the truth, but I was blindsided by third party property management because they're just trying to sell me the property and get their commission, right? So basically, when I took over the property, after like a year, I realized that, this deal was terrible. Property management was terrible. So I wanted to sell. And it took me a year to sell. And it was funny because I ended up selling to another person and they had the same experience as to me. So I basically had to do a seller carry second on the property. So they assumed the seller financing. I did a seller carry second and they pay me an interest rate every month. So I had to carry 450K on the deal, so it's still trapped in the deal. And I ended up losing $100,000, which was a nice tax write-off against my W-2 income. So I ended up getting about $40,000 back. So realistically, it was a $60,000 loss after taking into fact the tax loss. And from there, I basically got rid of the deal. Terrible property management, terrible demographic, and the new owner, they took over the property. They had the same problems, right? Like the property manager was terrible. They ended up firing them, and then had to like take property management in house themselves. And then they fired my property manager that was on site, brought another person who was my security guard to manage the deal because he was able to collect rents. And they're trying to sell it now too. And for me, I hope they do well because I want to get my money back, right? I want to get my 450K back, and basically recover my money and just move on, right? So and they bought into the same dream, and CCI, they're just terrible in terms of property management. And the people who bought from me, what's crazy is they owned 4 parks that was managed by CCI, and after they realized how bad CCI was, they end up trying to sell all their parks now. But with mobile home parks, it takes a long time to sell, unfortunately, right? It takes a very long time to sell mobile home parks, especially value-add mobile home parks. So I went from buying a deal for $1 million, thinking that it'd be worth $10 million if I could do my value add strategy of renovating the units, rent them out, demolish the homes, bring on new homes, rent those new homes out, sell the new homes. And it would have taken me 4 years to do that, which is roughly about now. I bought this in November of 2020, 21, and in November of 25, I'd be done my value add strategy, so I'd almost be done. And had I hit my goal, I would have grossed 10K a month, 50K in expenses, made 30K in your cost, net like 20K a month or 30K a month, and it'd be worth $10 million, right? So I could have done a cash out refinance, pull a bunch of money tax free, and then basically retire off of that. But instead, I lost $100,000, and I got a hard lesson of don't have shiny object syndrome, right? And then don't buy in bad areas. And property managers make or break the deals. So I had a terrible property manager. That's why the deal was broken, and it was a bad area too, right? So by going through all that, I took a risk on this property, and when I bought this property, in my mind, these are the numbers. So like I knew the upside would be about $10 million, right? But I knew my downside was worst case, I'd lose $200,000. And I ended up losing $100,000, $60,000 after you consider the tax money I got back from claiming the loss. And why I'm sharing this video is because I took a risk on the property, but it was a calculated risk. So I knew that, am I willing to lose $200,000 in 2 years of my life at the chance to potentially make, basically $10 million? Or like, make it something worth $10 million, a couple million, like, $8 million. Let's just say I made $8 million over 4 years. That's $2 million a year tax free. So I took the swing, I took the miss, and ended up losing. And I lost $100,000, but I could afford to lose $100,000. And my 450K is still trapped. I hope to get it back, and then I could use that to pay off debt or to invest in more real estate, right? Which is always kind of my goal, and kind of my strategy. So that's what I did. And why I share this is because you're not going to win them all, right? Like I had my 26 unit, that's a home run deal. Bought it for $500,000, put in 300, it's worth 1.6 a day. I made $800,000. Cash flow is $8,000 a day. I bought my mobile park. That was a swing and a miss. I lost $100,000 on that. I bought my 20 unit. It's a base hit. I mean, it cash flows $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and I made a little bit of appreciation on it. So why I share that is because when you go in the real estate long term, you have to look at what's your upside and what's your worst downside. Like if I lost everything, what's your worst case scenario? And are you okay with that? And I was with my mobile home park. So it was a calculated risk that I took, right? Because I remember I predicted I would lose 200K. Ended up losing 100 and had a lot of stress, had a lot of clarity, but I took these lessons with me for the rest of my life, right? Like I wish instead of buying a mobile home park, I bought another apartment complex, and I had near my 26 unit, and I had opportunities to buy another apartment complex by my 26 unit. So now I'm only going to buy apartments near my 26 unit apartment complex, because it's easier for me, right? Like it's more passive, it's more scalable, and I'm more of a lifestyle investor. Like I'm investing in real estate to give me freedom. I don't want to buy myself another job. And with the mobile home park, it was too dependent on that property management. So, that's the lesson I learned. And if you come across CCI, avoid them. They're not good property managers, despite having 70 mobile home parks. They don't communicate well, and they're just the worst property managers you can deal with. So now I know like what to avoid, right? So kind of a lesson that I learned. I want to share one of my battle scars with a property I took a risk on, and I swung for the fences to make $10 million. Would have doubled my net worth. I'd be worth $17 million if it panned out, but instead I lost $100,000, and have a fun story to tell on YouTube now. So that's really what it is. So the key is stay focused in one asset class and just do it for a long time and become the best at it. So I can become the best at 20 to 30 units in Oklahoma City and slowly scale that over time, right? And that'll make me more than enough money that I ever need to do with. I don't need to go into mobile home parks. I don't need to do self-storage. I don't need to do triple net. I don't need to do Airbnb. Just do one thing and stay focused on one thing for a long time, right? So that's how you become extraordinary, by doing something ordinary for a long period of time. So anyways, if you want to learn to buy multifamily real estate with some guidance, click on my link tree down below. From there, you can see my coaching, my courses. My email is also there if you want to email me for a discount code or if you have questions, happy to answer. Also have a newsletter down below that you can subscribe to for free. Otherwise, let me know what questions you have. Please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.